The ground shook with each strike of the shovel. Michael Dawson wiped sweat from his brow as he continued his work at the vacant lot in Oak Ridge's northern district. Then came the sound. Faint, desperate, inhuman. A muffled cry from beneath the earth itself. What began as a routine construction job on March 22, 2017, would unearth one of the most disturbing cases of human captivity in modern American criminal history. A woman, believed dead for 8 years, found buried alive, and the horrifying truth of her captivity that would shock an entire community to its core. If you're fascinated by unraveling the darkest mysteries and exploring gripping true crime stories, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and become part of our investigative community. Let's get to the case. On that crisp spring morning, Michael Dawson, 42, had arrived at his newly purchased vacant lot with simple intentions. The auto repair shop owner planned to expand his business by building garages on the property. Having already cleared the area of old metal debris days earlier, this was to be routine foundation work. At approximately 9:15 a.m., while Dawson was marking the foundation perimeter with measuring ropes, he heard something that stopped him cold, a sound emanating from beneath the earth. Initially dismissing it as trapped wildlife or perhaps a damaged pipe, the faint noise persisted. Minutes later, it became unmistakable. These were human cries for help. At first, I couldn't believe what I was hearing, Dawson later testified. It sounded muffled, almost like someone was calling out from inside a sealed room. But it was coming from under the ground. Dawson began carefully digging at the precise location of the sounds. The upper layer of soil appeared normal, but as he dug deeper, he encountered an unusual mixture of sand and gravel, noticeably different from the surrounding earth. 10 minutes into his desperate excavation, his shovel struck a solid surface. Someone had intentionally installed a countertop beneath the meticulously compacted soil. The surface showed no visible signs of recent disturbance. When Dawson removed pieces of the countertop and shined his flashlight into the darkness below, the horrifying reality became clear. He saw a human hand. Then came a barely audible plea for help. "I saw her face, almost completely covered in dirt and sand," Dawson would later tell investigators. "She was barely breathing, but somehow still alive. Her eyes, I'll never forget the look in her eyes. Pure terror mixed with the faintest glimmer of hope." At 9:40 a.m., Dawson called 911, reporting his unimaginable discovery. The woman attempted to rise from her earthen prison, but her legs and lower body remained encased in soil. Emergency services arrived 13 minutes later, finding her in critical condition, severely dehydrated, with shallow breathing and a faint pulse. Paramedics provided immediate first aid before rushing her to Oak Ridge Memorial Hospital. Officer Nathan Rivera, the first law enforcement responder, immediately recognized the gravity of the scene. "This wasn't a natural occurrence or accident," he noted in his initial report. "The soil composition and layering showed clear signs of deliberate human intervention." The police cordoned off the area, recognizing the telltale signs of a grave hurriedly prepared to conceal a human being. Initial examination showed the ground had been deliberately filled and mixed in a manner that would prevent the victim from freeing herself, but allow minimal air circulation, suggesting the perpetrator had intended a slow, agonizing death rather than immediate suffocation. Construction work was halted, and a full criminal investigation commenced under the direction of Detective Sarah Michaels. By March 23rd, the sheriff's office confirmed a startling development. The woman rescued from the makeshift grave had been identified as Sophia Reynolds, reported missing in August 2009, nearly 8 years earlier. Sophia had vanished at age 23 while working as a waitress at Pine Tree Cafe in Oak Ridge. According to official records, she'd completed her evening shift, but never arrived at her apartment 3 blocks away. After she missed a scheduled call with her sister and stopped responding to messages, her parents reported her missing the following day. Despite extensive search efforts, including bloodhounds, helicopter sweeps of nearby wooded areas, and a national database entry, no trace of Sophia had been found. The case was suspended in early 2011 due to lack of evidence, with many assuming she had met with foul play. "We always held out hope," said Margaret Reynolds, Sophia's mother. "But after years of silence, even that hope begins to fade. You never truly give up, but you learn to live with the unknown." Now, improbably, Sophia Reynolds was alive, though in a state of extreme physical and psychological distress. Dr. Elena Patel, the emergency physician who first treated Sophia, described her condition. The patient exhibited severe malnutrition, vitamin D deficiency consistent with prolonged sunlight deprivation, muscle atrophy in the lower extremities, and numerous partially healed lacerations on her wrists and ankles, suggesting she had been restrained for extended periods. Hospital officials reported she was conscious but unable to provide detailed statements about her 8-year absence. Psychological evaluation revealed symptoms of complex post-traumatic stress disorder, disassociation, and emotional dysregulation, typical of long-term captivity situations. The investigation team, led by Detective Michaels and forensic specialist Dr. James Cohen, faced 3 critical questions. Who had kidnapped Sophia Reynolds? How had she survived physically during such a long absence without contacting the outside world? And what had prompted the perpetrator to attempt to dispose of her after 8 years? Forensic teams meticulously examined the burial site, collecting more than 30 blood samples from the soil, analyzing the plywood countertop structure, and documenting evidence of recent excavation in a 4-square-meter radius. The compacted layers of different soil types ruled out any possibility of accidental collapse. The grave had been deliberately constructed. This wasn't an impulsive act, Dr. Cohen explained during the investigation briefing. The layering of materials, gravel beneath for drainage, mixed soil above to prevent escape, showed planning and knowledge of how to construct a space that would prolong suffering while preventing immediate death. One detail puzzled investigators. The burial location was in a residential area where strangers would be immediately noticed. The site was at the end of an alleyway where children often played. How could someone transport and bury a victim without detection? On March 24th, investigators began examining potential connections between the burial site and nearby residents. Their attention quickly turned to Thomas Nichols, a 58-year-old former postal worker who lived approximately 200 meters from where Sophia had been found. Nichols had no criminal record or known illegal activities. Neighbors described him as reclusive and uncommunicative. He'd lived on the street for years, but I couldn't tell you a single personal thing about him, reported Caroline Weber, who had resided across from Nichols for over a decade. He never participated in neighborhood events, never decorated for holidays. His house was always quiet, blinds drawn. The kind of neighbor you forget exists until you happen to see him collecting his mail. Nichols was registered as a minor tax debtor, but had no obvious connection to Sophia Reynolds. Initially, investigators considered him merely a potential witness due to his home's proximity to the crime scene. A crucial discovery emerged during the investigation's review. In summer 2010, police had actually visited the same vacant lot following an anonymous call about suspicious nighttime activity. At that time, officers found nothing unusual and dismissed the report. No excavations with specialized equipment were conducted, and no connection to Reynolds' disappearance was established. This revelation raised disturbing questions. Had Sophia been nearby all along? Had someone been trying to alert authorities years earlier? On March 26th, the investigation took a dramatic turn. Sheriff's deputies arrived at Nichols' house to conduct a routine inspection of properties surrounding the burial site. Nichols cooperated, allowing officers to inspect his home, garage, and attic. Nothing suspicious was found inside the main house. However, during the exterior inspection, investigators noticed an unusual crack in the foundation of an auxiliary building behind his residence. Using an infrared scanner, one expert detected a hidden cavity beneath the floor. The thermal reading was unmistakable, reported Officer Marcus Thompson, who operated the scanning equipment. There was a void beneath the concrete approximately 8 feet by 10 feet in dimension, too large and too symmetrical to be a natural formation. When questioned about when he had last inspected the foundations, Nichols answered evasively, claiming he rarely entered the auxiliary building. With sufficient grounds for a more thorough search, investigators obtained a warrant and called in the forensic team. By early afternoon, after removing several floorboards and sections of concrete, they made a chilling discovery: an underground room approximately 1.5 meters beneath the auxiliary building. The hidden chamber contained metal chains anchored into the walls, restraint locks, insulation materials, and a ventilation tube leading outside. It was clear from the first moment we entered that this was a purpose-built prison cell, Detective Michaels would later testify. The walls were soundproofed with industrial insulation. There was a crude toilet facility in one corner. A water spigot had been installed at an easily accessible height for someone sitting on the floor. Everything about the space was designed for long-term human confinement. The room contained a mattress covered in polyethylene, empty water containers, and surfaces notably free of dust, indicating recent use. A small shelf held various medications, including sedatives and antibiotics. Most disturbing was a notebook containing what appeared to be a feeding schedule, with dates as recent as March 18, 2017, just 4 days before Sophia was discovered buried. Nichols claimed the room predated his ownership of the property, insisting previous owners had constructed it as a fallout shelter during the Cold War. Database verification, however, confirmed Nichols had been the sole owner for over 17 years, having purchased the property in 2000. Building records showed no permitted underground construction at any point in the property's history. Forensic technicians collected mattress fibers and biological material from the walls for DNA analysis. The discovery of this hidden prison fundamentally altered the investigation's trajectory. For the first time, there was a specific location with clear evidence of someone being held captive. By March 30th, DNA test results confirmed what investigators had suspected. Blood and hair samples from the basement matched Sophia Reynolds with 99.8% certainty. This definitively placed her in Nichols's underground room, under conditions that could only indicate forced captivity. Technical specialists analyzing Nichols' seized computer made another breakthrough. They discovered an encrypted external hard drive containing deleted files with automatic backups created between 2009 and 2016. These included textual notes and images documenting what appeared to be the systematic recording of a captivity scenario. The notes detailed a daily schedule, regular food deliveries, and periodic lamp replacements in the underground room. Details that aligned perfectly with Sophia's fragmentary statements to doctors about her confinement. August 14, 2011. Subject continues to maintain hope of rescue. This delusion must be managed carefully. Reduced food ration as punishment for attempted communication through ventilation system. December 25, 2013. Subject requested Christmas meal. Request granted with conditions of complete obedience for the coming month. Behavioral control continues to improve with structured reward system. July 3, 2016. Growing concerns about property inspection scheduled for September. Contingency plan must be established. Identified potential relocation site if current arrangement becomes compromised. Further inspection of Nichols's property revealed that the ventilation tube leading to the basement had been carefully concealed with a metal plate installed long ago. The tube itself had been disguised as part of a garden irrigation system, with the intake cleverly hidden within a decorative rock formation. Investigators concluded the ventilation system had been deliberately designed for long-term human captivity while evading detection. Despite mounting evidence, Nichols maintained his ignorance about the underground room's purpose. In response to inquiries about the ventilation system, he asserted that it was a remnant of earlier landscape installations, yet he was unable to furnish any supporting documentation. On April 2nd, technical experts completed recovery of deleted files from his hard drive. The recovered photos showed a room identical to the basement found under his auxiliary building. Some images dated from 2010 to 2016, precisely during Sophia's captivity, and clearly showed a woman matching her description restrained on the mattress. Some photos contained personal objects and furniture details that she had described after regaining consciousness in the hospital, including a distinctive blue blanket with yellow stitching and a small desk lamp with a damaged shade. Most damning were several images showing Nichols himself in the room, directly interacting with the captive. The evidence was now overwhelming. At 9:00 a.m. on April 3rd, District Attorney Victoria Hamill held a closed meeting with Sheriff Benjamin Walker and lead investigators. They decided to formally arrest Nichols and charge him with kidnapping, illegal deprivation of liberty, aggravated assault, and attempted murder. When confronted with the evidence during questioning, he finally admitted the secret room belonged to him and that he had used it to keep a woman captive, though he initially denied it was Sophia Reynolds. After investigators read excerpts from his own recovered files, mentioning specific dates and references to relocating the subject if discovered, Nichols stopped answering questions, invoking his Fifth Amendment rights. "I've never seen someone so devoid of emotion when confronted with evidence of such cruelty," Detective Michaels noted in her report. He discussed the underground room as if he were describing a storage facility, not a prison where he'd kept another human being for nearly a decade. At 1:45 p.m., Thomas Nichols was officially arrested and transferred to the Oak Ridge County Detention Center. He showed no emotion and offered no resistance during the arrest procedure. Through painstaking investigation, authorities were able to reconstruct the horrifying timeline of Sophia's captivity. In August 2009, she disappeared after her shift at the cafe. Security camera footage, initially overlooked in the original investigation, but now carefully re-examined, showed a postal service vehicle similar to Nichols's personal car, following her as she walked home. It is believed Nichols, who had been carefully planning her abduction for months, accosted her in a secluded area and transported her to the prepared underground room beneath his auxiliary building. For nearly 8 years, Sophia was held captive in the windowless underground chamber, a space specifically designed with ventilation, rudimentary sanitation, and other features to enable long-term confinement. Nichols maintained a strict schedule, documented meticulously in his digital records, for feeding and maintaining his captive. In summer 2010, someone, perhaps a neighbor who had noticed unusual activity, made an anonymous call to police about suspicious nighttime movements at the vacant lot. Police conducted a cursory check, but found nothing. Video archives later revealed officers had actually approached Nichols's house during this investigation, but left after a brief conversation without entering or inspecting the property. By March 2017, Nichols likely became concerned about potential discovery. Michael Dawson's purchase of the adjacent vacant lot and the commencement of construction work may have triggered Nichols's decision to dispose of his victim. Cell phone records showed Nichols had searched online for how deep to bury objects to prevent discovery, and soil composition for drainage in the weeks before the burial attempt. On March 21, 2017, Nichols transported Sophia to the prepared grave, buried her alive, and meticulously concealed the disturbed earth. The timing suggests he had been planning the disposal for weeks, coinciding with Dawson's announced construction timeline. Had Dawson not begun his excavation precisely when he did, or had he started just days later, Sophia would certainly have perished in her underground tomb. The final forensic inspection of the burial site on April 4th revealed another horrifying detail. The countertop structure had been placed directly over an old drainage well. Experts believed that over time, soil settling would have eventually blocked air access completely. Additionally, groundwater levels would have risen with spring rains, potentially drowning Sophia even if she maintained an air pocket. Her rescue had occurred at the last possible moment for survival. In my 23 years of forensic examination, I've never seen a case where victim survival hinged on such precise timing, Dr. Cohen stated in his final report. Had the construction been delayed by even 72 hours, we would almost certainly have recovered a body rather than a living victim. Sophia Reynolds remained under medical care at a specialized trauma treatment facility, gradually recovering from her physical injuries and beginning the long process of psychological rehabilitation. Her parents, who had never moved from their Oak Ridge home in the faint hope their daughter might someday return, maintained a constant vigil at the hospital during her initial recovery. "What happened to our daughter is beyond comprehension," said Richard Reynolds, Sophia's father. "But we're focused now on helping her rebuild her life, one day at a time. She has shown incredible strength and resilience." Sophia chose not to make public comments, focusing instead on her recovery and reunion with family. Her medical team reported that while the physical damage would heal, the psychological impact of 8 years in captivity would require long-term specialized treatment. Thomas Nichols faced multiple serious charges, carrying potential life imprisonment without parole. Preliminary psychiatric examination showed no signs of mental illness that would impair his legal responsibility. Dr. Leonard Harrison, the court-appointed psychiatrist, concluded, "The defendant shows classic signs of psychopathy, lack of empathy, meticulous planning, ability to maintain a facade of normalcy, but no evidence of psychosis or impaired understanding of reality that would suggest diminished capacity. The evidence suggested his actions stemmed from a compulsive need to control another human being completely." Investigators found journals dating back to 2005 documenting his obsession with captivity scenarios, and multiple instances of surveillance notes on different women in the community before he ultimately targeted Sophia. The case sent shockwaves through the Oak Ridge community, raising uncomfortable questions about how a woman could be held captive for 8 years in a residential area without detection. Many residents questioned why the 2010 investigation had been so superficial and why no one had noticed signs of the underground construction. "We lived less than 500 feet away," said neighbor Joshua Kemp. "For 8 years, she was right there, suffering, while we went about our daily lives, never imagining what was happening so close to us." How do you come to terms with that? Law enforcement officials acknowledged the case revealed serious deficiencies in missing persons investigations. Sheriff Walker initiated a comprehensive review of departmental protocols, particularly for follow-up on anonymous tips and suspicious person reports. "The system failed Sophia Reynolds," Sheriff Walker admitted in a press conference. "We had opportunities to discover what was happening years earlier. The use of specialized technology during the 2010 check might have found her, potentially saving her from years of continued captivity. This case will change how we approach every missing persons investigation moving forward." For Sophia Reynolds, rescued from the earth itself after 8 years of darkness, the journey toward recovery had just begun. For the community of Oak Ridge, the case served as a chilling reminder that the most horrifying crimes can occur behind ordinary facades, in quiet neighborhoods where no one thinks to look too closely at what might lie beneath. And for criminal investigators, the case stands as a stark testament to the power of persistence and the sometimes terrifying truth that justice often hangs by the thinnest of threads. A chance sound heard by the right person at precisely the right moment.